Hey, what's up, y'all? Man, we're so excited that we get to be back together this Sunday. Before we kick off this new series that we have, I do have a couple announcements for you guys. Number one, be on the lookout for this next week. We are planning on having some sort of in-person get-together this week. We are blessed with having enough room and space outside that we can all get together and hang out and still not be in the same room and keep social distancing laws and whatnot. So be on the lookout for a date and a time for that. I will be emailing your parents with some details. So be excited for that. I'm so pumped that we're going to be able to hang out. Number two is do not forget about our Zoom meetings. We are about halfway, maybe a little past halfway through with the book of Romans. We meet every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on Zoom. If you don't have the link to that Zoom meeting and you want to join us for that as we read a chapter of Romans, drop a comment below, message us, text me, text your leader, and we can get that link to you. Now, I want to jump into a new series that we have and we're starting, and this series is titled More Than a Hashtag. And I think it's very fitting that we're talking about this, especially with the way the political climate is right now. I wanted us to talk for the next 4 weeks about biblical justice. Now, we all feel like complaining at times, and whether it's because someone ripped us off or somebody cut us off or because we went to Chick-fil-A and they didn't give us enough french fries with our number one, hold the pickles, and we may feel like complaining about how that wasn't fair. You know, when I was your age, I had two outlets to complain. I could either talk to a person or I could write it down somewhere. Now, I'm not ancient, but social media didn't have the legs it has now. Now, have you guys complained about something on social media before? Or maybe you just leave a review about something that wasn't great. Now, think of a time that you might have done this. And here are a few of my favorite social media complaints. We'll throw these up on the screen. How about this dude that had a little bit of a pizza issue? He's upset with Domino's, and then Domino's comes back and asks him what's going on. And then he finds out that in reality it was his mess up all along. Or what about this guy right here that actually ends up being stuck in a bookstore after hours, and he's tweeting at them to see if they'll let him out. Now, I have to confess, these are silly, and I have used social media for petty reasons such as these before. But while some of us use social media for not super serious things, there are plenty of organizations out there that are trying to do good and solve bigger problems by using their platform and social media. You might have heard of some of these. One of my favorite ones is Save the Storks. They focus on providing help and education to expecting mothers that may be freaking out about their pregnancy and don't really know what to do with it. Or what about Rafa House, who strives to end child slavery all over the world by rescuing little girls from sexual slavery and teaching them how to grow up and how to develop a trade so that they can provide for themselves in the future and they don't end up back in that cycle. Or what about the NAACP, who focus on legal litigation and fighting for racial equality in America? Many of these social media campaigns and companies have done awesome things, and they have spread awareness about what is wrong in this world, and they're helping make those wrongs right, and that is justice. Now, because social media is easily accessible, it is an awesome tool to spread news and about news about crises and injustices and needs, and it's a fast way, especially for people whose voices aren't heard or aren't silenced when they're offline. Though there's a lot of good to come from this, there are also some downsides to it. Social media activism, if you will, does have some downsides, and that is it's easy to retweet a post or like something or repost something or share a video that's inspiring. And for a lot of us, that is where that justice work ends, and we move on with life. So is writing a good post or reposting a picture or talking about something once, is that justice, or is there more to that hashtag? Now, we're going to get to that question in a minute, but first I want to walk us through the idea of God's image and how we are made in it. Now, take a second and think of all the positive attributes that maybe have been given to you at one point or another. We're going to go ahead and put a list of a couple up on the screen to help you guys out. Maybe you've been called dedicated or smart or pretty or strong or a leader or funny, artistic, loving, inclusive, forgiving, a good listener, popular, or kind. Now, you're probably wondering what all these things have to do with social media and hashtags and justice, and maybe this verse is going to help you make the connection. Ephesians 2:10 says this, "For we are his workmanship, work of art, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Now, remember, you are God's masterpiece or workmanship, created to do his work. And for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about these good works that we can do. Good works that right the wrongs in this world in Jesus' name. Now, before we talk about that, let's talk about you. We have to start our conversation today by understanding one thing, and that is that you, your neighbor, people all around the world, myself, are all made in God's image. Now, your race, religion, denomination, political affiliation, whatever that is, doesn't change the fact that we are God's masterpiece. Now, as his masterpiece, we are all given unique qualities and strengths and abilities and experiences that are all of our own, and those are important details about the masterpiece that we are and that we get to be. But as God's masterpiece, we weren't created to be put behind a glass screen or up in a pedestal and get all dusty like some antique. The Bible has a good amount to say about what we're called to do as people of God. We're given a mission by God himself. As part of that mission, we are commanded over and over again to fight to make the wrong things right in this world. And that is what we mean by the term justice. One of the best known passages about this is in the book of Micah, which can be found in the Old Testament. Now, Micah was a prophet of God who was sent there to call out unjust leaders and fight for the victims of injustice and rally God's people for change. So let's take a look at Micah 6:6-8. It says this, "What does the Lord require? With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Would the Lord be pleased with 1,000 rams, with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God." Now, it was very common back then in the Jewish religion to make elaborate sacrifices for God whenever we sinned or they made God angry. They would do these sacrifices to please God. And that's what we're looking at in verses 6 and 7. But then Micah kind of drops the hammer and says that something that's very controversial, and especially for the people back then, and that is that, hey, God doesn't care about them. Instead of all these flashy sacrifices, God would rather them live out their faith in a way that results in justice, mercy, and humility. Now, God isn't asking them for a faith that shows up to church, does the traditions, and then does the right things, and then punches out until next week. He wants a faith that goes outside of these four walls and makes a difference in the world. He's calling his people, us, to do something. So now what? Man, God is inviting us, and God is inviting you to join the battle for justice. There is so much wrong and evil in this world, and it seems like at times everywhere we look, there's brokenness, tragedy, and injustice. The level of injustice in this world, man, it can seem overwhelming, and that's totally understandable. Just scroll through Facebook or Instagram for 30 seconds, and you're going to see what I mean. And you probably have heard me say things like, do something, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel overwhelmed because you have no idea where to start. And now, if that's you, let me help you and give you two things that I hope are going to be an encouragement to you. Number one, God is the miracle worker. It's not us. He calls us to join his mission to make things right. Ultimately, though, it is his mission, and he's going to be the one that works out the miracles. God wants us to join him in his mission. He can use us in amazing ways. We get to join him and come alongside of him when we choose to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly, just like it said in the book of Micah. He can use us if we are willing. And the number two thing is, you don't have to do everything, just do something. Now, it's easy to become overwhelmed with all the wrong in this world, but God isn't calling us to change every little thing. That's too much for one person to do. Remember earlier when I asked you guys to remember the attributes that people have spoken over you? Now here's where that ties in. As God's masterpiece, you are uniquely designed for a purpose. And I don't know what injustices You are designed to fight, but man, am I excited for you to discover that. Your unique qualities, strengths, abilities, and experiences have equipped you perfectly for whatever work God has for you to do. Guys, you can't change the whole world on your own, but you can be part of the change. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about what it means to do something in a way that aligns with God's mission in the world around us. We're going to learn how to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly. As we close today, I want to give you something to reflect on. I want to give you some homework, if you will, and it's very easy. It's just listening to music. Go to YouTube or Spotify and listen to the song Send Me by Lecrae. Now, check with your parents, make sure they're cool with it. Just so you know, he is a Christian rap artist, so you're not going to find anything explicit on there. But I want you to meditate on the words of that song and use this time to chat with God and listen. Ask him to help you see others as a masterpiece made by him just as you are. Ask him to fill your heart with a desire for justice, to see the wrongs made right. Ask him to open your eyes and ears to opportunities to do good and things that he has prepared you in advance to do and take care of. And ask him to give you courage and perseverance to do something this week. Guys, this is a really tough topic, and this is something that is heavy, and this is something that is very relatable to what's going on in the world right now. And I think, honestly, you can handle this conversation. You have the ability to do something in this world that extends way past a hashtag, way past a social media post. Man, if you're confused on where to start or where your impact is or what you need to do, reach out. We have lists of things that we can do, and we can point you towards to where you can do something and make an impact in this world and fight for justice, because fighting for justice and fighting for those that don't have a voice is what Jesus was all about. We love you guys. We can't wait to see you next week. See ya.